right, ladies and gentlemen, my guest at this time goes by just three letters, but his band can be summed up in just one word. He is the HBK of the infamous Hairball. Welcome, HBK. How you doing?
I'm doing good. I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, man. So, first and foremost, I'm a huge fan ever since I saw you guys in Sioux Falls a couple years ago. We had never heard of Hairball. So, I have so many questions. But first, we always like to start off with an icebreaker here on the show. And that is, what is it like to be HBK of Hairball?
It's very tiring. Very tiring. We do about 120 to 125 shows a year. So uh, I'm not an accountant, but that's a lot of days a year. So that's we do. But we play a lot, but that's okay. I mean, that's what we all want to do. So that's okay with me.
I imagine so. I mean, that's the goal is to play a lot, do what you love as long as you can while you can. So that leads us into, Hairball. When we saw it, we didn't know what to expect. And then as we're like midway through your guys' set, we're like, this is incredible. And so when people ask me, okay, so what is Hairball? I've tried my best to describe it because you guys aren't a tribute band. You're not a cover band. I said the best I could do is say it's an experience. How would you describe Hairball to somebody that's never heard of you?
When people ask me that question, I usually say if a Las Vegas review and an arena rock band had a baby, it would be Hairball, because that's really kind of, like, I know growing up, that was kind of one of the things in Vegas was, you could go see, Elvis, even though it wasn't Elvis, or, Sinatra or whoever. And, they did every aspect, mannerism, costume, the voice, the whole thing. They tried to recreate the entire experience, like you said. And that's what Hairball does. Only we do it with not just one act or one person. We do it with a whole bunch, and we do it at the scale of an arena rock band.
That is a pretty spot on accurate description. I'll have to use that one from now on. But yeah, so my background, I have a green screen up. This is one of the photos I took of you guys at the Helena Fair just a few weeks ago. I've probably been about a month now, actually. But you have Happy over there, and then you have
And
HBK over there. And the singer I'm blocking, but that's because that's kind of the allure of Hairball is you never know who's going to come out next. It could be the lead singer from Twisted Sister. It could be Freddie Mercury. It could be a number of things. And so my next question is, how do you guys decide what your set's going to be and who's going to dress up as what?
well, the guys. So we have three guys who sing, and they all kind of have set characters, as we like to call them, of who they do. In terms of what we're going to do on any one night, it's really hard to say. We do have a database of every show that the band has played for the last well over 10 years. So we can always look back and see if we've played at the venue before, what we played the last time we were there, or even if we were close by, what we played last time. And so generally, we'll try to not play that again, and we'll try to mix it up. Um, and or if there's something new that we've recently added, we usually always add that in. And so there's always, it's always, we always try to keep it different, and that's the plus too. Like when we go to a place, uh, like Sturgis last week, where we were there for 3 nights, and we can play a different show every night. So
That's incredible because I imagine, after 10 years, you guys probably have it pretty well down. But I feel like the early stages, I mean, I was in a band for 6 years plus, and, we would put our set together, one based on, like kind of newer stuff mixed in, and then the favorites towards the end. But we also had to consider, like key signatures and tuning and all that stuff. How many guitars do we have available that we can just switch and stuff like that. So I can't even imagine what you guys went through in the early phases of trying to figure out a rhythm or a system to setting up a show where you have so many different bands. And even though they're all 80s rock, I mean, there's a lot of different stuff going on sound wise.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And yeah, I mean that all gets taken into account, and as well as where does the pyro go? When do we want somebody to blow fire? When do we want to do this? When do we want to do that? There's always, yeah, there's all that stuff, and that all goes in to putting on the big rock and roll show that you know that that hopefully comes off as very smooth and natural, and
Yeah, your singers, they do very much sound and look the part of the different singers that they're portraying. So, your singer that does Freddie Mercury also does Journey, and he's got that kind of higher tone voice. And then your singer that we saw him do for the first time, it was Alice Cooper. That was a lot of fun. He's very animated. His facial expressions are right on point. What's been the biggest challenge band for you guys as a whole, not just like makeup wise or vocal range, but just kind of putting everything together for a 3-song set?
wow. I think each one has its own challenges, whether it's you know maybe there's a ton of vocal harmonies, or maybe just the costumes and the production. Like, I know when we added Gene Simmons back into the show, that was a big thing, because that not only involved having a really great costume and making sure that the voice, the playing, the mannerisms, the all of those things. But then we had to introduce, okay, well, he's going to blow fire, so you know just the functionality of of who all has to do what, because that involves not only us knowing where to stay out of the way, but that involves somebody bringing out the big block that he has to throw the flaming torch into afterwards. It involves somebody else bringing him uh, the stuff that he actually puts in his mouth to blow the fire. So it all of a sudden, well, now there's the four of us on the stage and two other guys, and then the pyro cue afterwards. And, so now all of a sudden that involved way more people than, even your average character does. And so, you know, I know that it was the hardest, but it was certainly one of the most involved ones, where it was like, I remember when as we were getting ready to actually do that, in a show, where there was one sound check where we ran through just the sequence of blowing the fire a half dozen times, 10 times. I don't know. It was over and over and over again. I only remember that because during the show, then the stage was like an ice rink that night, because there was so much of the stuff that he blows out actually to create the flame was all over my side of the stage.
That's awesome. Well, when you guys decide on new bands to incorporate in your set, obviously there's several different singers from that whole genre and era that have very distinct, not only mannerisms, looks, but also vocals. But there's some that don't. I
Right.
mean, you mentioned Gene Simmons, kind of a more generic vocal range, as well as Alice Cooper. So when you guys get together and you say, all right, so the next band that we're going to introduce is going to be Aerosmith, and so Steven Tyler, that's going to be you. And then one of the other singers is like, well, hold on a second, like, why can't that be me? Do you ever have creative differences like that in the group?
Uh, those three guys all really know what they do well. And so not too often. I mean, again, they all kind of have their thing, you know. We have the guy who can do all the scream stuff really well, and we've got the pure high tenor voice, and we've got the and so everybody kind of knows their strengths, and if somebody introduces something like that, we all uh, generally it's pretty clear who is going to fit that role the best, and and it all starts with that visual, right? It's we tend to call it the 100-foot rule, right? If that singer in costume can stand 100 feet away, no music on, no nothing, and we go, that's Alice Cooper. All right, we can play that, no problem. And because that's where it all starts, I mean, especially when you're in a larger venue, those people need to be able to see that from a long ways away and know who it is the moment that they walk out, you know. And so,
So with that then, is there a band or even a singer that you guys have wanted to incorporate that maybe didn't pass that 100 rule test?
oh, I think there's a ton of bands that we all love. I mean, for sure there is. I mean, I love Night Ranger, but if you dress up a guy like Jack Blades, he's going to stand there and I'm going to go, uh, uh, is that Bob from accounting? I don't know. And I love Jack Blades and I love Night Ranger, but you know, there's got to be that visual aspect. And so it's always it's tough. And if we ever have any differences at all, it's trying to make stuff work that we really want to make work, but you're just like, "God, I don't know if the visual works or not." And if the whole package of the visual and the costume and the songs and all that stuff can all come together and be worthy to put something else out of the set. Like, okay, so who's gonna knock Guns N' Roses out of the set? I don't know. That's kind of tough. Okay, who's gonna knock Freddie Mercury out of the set? So there's always that kind of, I guess, for lack of a better term, competition between those those artists where it's like, okay, but what are you gonna take out?
Yeah.
And who does that trump over? Like, I don't know. So, I mean, that's always the ongoing argument of, well, I want to do this. Well, what do you think about that? But what do you think about that? And okay, but who does that replace? And so there's uh always that kind of conversation because we are always trying to do new stuff and to further evolve the show.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you guys are essentially putting together your own all-star team. And so
Right.
when those come out, people are like, "Oh, so and so didn't make it." And you're like, "Well, who are you going to replace them with? Who's out?" And that would
Exactly.
be I can't even imagine how tough that would be because I know that when we saw you guys in Sioux Falls, we did not see some of the acts and sets that we saw in Helena, and we were still blown away and we were so excited. But we love that there were two different sets. We didn't want to see the same thing twice, and I think that's what you guys obviously strive to bring every
Right.
stop is a different experience. So when it comes to a band like Queen and Freddie Mercury, you guys have a phenomenal Freddie. I mean, he is without a doubt has the moves down, has the vocals down. We have yet to hear Bohemian Rhapsody, and I was curious if that's something that you guys have done, and if it's you save Queen for the last set of the night, and that's the song you end on, or if you guys just don't want to spend that much time on a particular song of a particular artist.
We actually played it last night. We closed the show with it last night. So
Dang it.
that's just
Oh,
one of those you never know what you're gonna get. And oftentimes that is, also one way that that we can mix up the show is by doing just a number of different songs from an artist. And so that keeps it fresh for us, keeps it fresh with the audience. But yeah, that one is a handful. Absolutely. There's a lot going on in that song, but it's a great closer and it's a great, you know, for those who have seen us do it, after the breakdown in the middle of the song, when it comes back into the hard rock section of the ending of that song, man, it's man, it's a rush. I mean, it's there's a ton of energy in that. So
I could only imagine. Well, how did you find yourself in this kind of getup? Because I can't imagine either one if you were the person who had the idea, where that even comes about from, or if it was started and somebody pitched the idea of like, how would you like to be a part of this band that does all these different artists in one night?
well, the band started about 22 years ago. And I remember when the band started, because I was playing in another local band at the time. And it didn't start out with what it is now. It definitely evolved over the first couple years. It actually really kind of started out as a uh, kind of a hard rock Weird Al, kind of a spoof on the 80s.
Okay.
Um, you know, and it just kind of evolved as members changed and different people brought different things to the band. Then it turned into more and more of what it is now. And um, as it did that, it became more and more successful and bigger and bigger and bigger. And it's just one of those things. And it was the first one I had ever heard of who did this, kind of multi-band tribute, costumes, characters, the whole thing. Now, of course, there are a few others who try to do it. Um, I and I said this before I was ever in the band. I've never seen anybody who really comes close to the quality,
Oh, for
um,
sure.
and the production value. I mean, just you know, because guess what? That stuff costs money, and it
Yeah.
costs a lot of money. Um, but when I got recruited to come into the band, um, it was, it's what, as a working musician, it's what you work your whole life for. You want to be able to actually do it full time, have it sustain you, and be a thing where you're on the road all year long. And and it's how you can make your living. And there's not a lot of people who can do that anymore in this business, and we are very, very fortunate to be able to do it ourselves. And that's all because of the insanely supportive fans that we have. They and they're they're everywhere, and it's pretty incredible.
Yeah, I mean, you guys, for lack of a lengthier explanation, you guys have found a niche through several other people's niches. It's like you guys, Kiss puts on the face paint and the costumes, and Queen had Freddie Mercury and his dance moves on the stage, and Guns N' Roses had Slash and his guitar work, and Axl Rose with his, vocal ranges. But I mean, you guys have found a way to create your own niche through all those different niches that other bands have from an area that you guys obviously love and adore to death. And I think that that is something that a lot of people should not only appreciate but respect, because you guys get to bring nostalgia, bring a lot of fond memories to people that maybe can't see those bands ever again, or it's just not the same now as it was 30, 40 years ago. But you guys are just bringing this entertainment value that I really hope doesn't die off anytime soon, and I really hope gets the appreciation that you guys feel it deserves, because I've loved every experience Hairball that I've been to. I know my wife is a huge fan of you guys now. She gets so excited when you guys come through. So what is next for Hairball? I mean, if you guys you've figured out obviously what you guys are, but is there a next or an ultimate goal for you guys?
I think it's just to keep growing and to keep pushing out into new markets. There are still areas of the country, where we don't do a ton of shows. And I mean, we go. I think I've played 30 something states with the band so far. I mean, so we get around a lot, but there are absolutely more markets, and more there are more places uh, to go. And so I think there's a lot of room to grow. And I think as a lot of the original artists, don't play anymore. I mean, 2020 we lost Eddie Van Halen, and as the bands, as more and more of the original artists retire or don't play for whatever reason it is, you know, we we can hopefully carry this on. And it's amazing the number of kids we have at shows, young kids. And it's fantastic to see because it's great entertainment. I mean, there's a reason that these songs are the songs you hear at the kickoff of an NFL game, right? I mean, you still hear Welcome to the Jungle, you still hear We Will Rock You. You don't hear stuff from the last 20 years. I mean, you hear these songs because they're anthems and they're timeless and they're classic. And so I think you know, there will be, for a long time, there will be a time and an energy to go out and play this music.
All right, man. Well, like I said, I'm a huge fan. I hope that you guys get to expand to the markets that you haven't had a chance to yet. I know that we had our first exposure to Hairball coming to the Midwest, where we were from in Washington State. We had Hell's Bells, the ladies all tribute AC/DC band. And so when we saw that there was an ad for Hairball for the Sioux Falls or the Sioux County Fair, we were very intrigued, very excited to see what this was. So yeah, please keep expanding, keep doing what you guys are doing, because I feel I speak for not only just a certain generation, but a lot of fans out there that have yet to see you. And then right after they see you for the first time, that we appreciate what you guys are doing because it's awesome. So thank you so much for what you guys do and keep rocking. I will let you get back to some beauty rest before you guys go and tear up another stage. Where can people find you guys and follow along online and social media?
Well, the website is hairballonline.com. And then if you just look up Hairball on any of the Facebook, Instagram, Twitters, you'll find it out there. We're everywhere.
Perfect. All right. They're out there everywhere and hopefully coming to a city and state near you. So, one more time, thank you so much to HBK of the experience that is Hairball. You guys are awesome. And I thank you so much for your time, man. Really, I do.
Absolutely. I appreciate you having me. You have a good day.
You too.